All right, guys, we're going to go ahead and get going here. First of all, I'd like to take the time and welcome you guys and introduce myself here. I am the speaker here, Brian Suchland, Director of Software Services. As many of you guys know, I've been with CAMS. You guys have talked to me on support issues and whatnot. But yeah, I've directed support been with CAMS for 16 years and helped direct support and help with the sales team, so I've been around here. I'm going to do the presentation today on installing CAMWorks and updating it to the newer versions. It seems to be a common question, and we've compiled a list of common questions on that process to put in a presentation today to help streamline that process for you guys going forward. And again, Matt put off here, one of the applications engineers here at CAMS. He's going to be our co-pilot today. He's going to answer some questions and chime in or not if need be. So, like I said, he's been with a couple of years now, and he does a lot of our training as well. So, Matt, go ahead and introduce yourself and say hi.
Hey guys, like Brian said, I'll be the co-pilot today. Brian will do the main presentation, then you can put questions in. Should be like a Q&A button. You can ask questions, and then I'll respond to them as it's going. And if we need to, we can get Brian in. But we will have a Q&A session at the end. So if you want, you can wait to the end. We'll unmute everybody, but during the presentation, we'll probably more than likely keep everybody muted. But yeah. Like Brian said, I've been with the company, a little over a year now, and been doing training and, really exciting stuff.
And support.
Yeah, exactly. Cool. All right, I'm going to mute myself now.
Alrighty, guys. So if you have the questions, feel free to type them in, or you can save them to the end. Don't forget, if you save them to the end, so you go ahead and type them, and we will try our best. Matt will do his best to answer them, and he can save them to the end. He'll let you know, and we'll review them at the end if we have to. So we're going to go ahead and continue on here. And go ahead, and we also want to welcome and thank you for joining us today. As many of you know, manufacturing is our DNA at CAMS. We've expanded our product line geared to serve the needs of our companies who want to optimize their design and manufacturing processes. So we have different offerings. So we used to be a dedicated only CAMWorks reseller, but we now offer other things here to help you guys out. And I'm going to go over some of our new products here real quick. As you guys know, we've done CAMWorks for years. We are one of the original CAMWorks resellers. So we've been doing CAMWorks since day one of its existence. And as you know, we do custom post-process for it, in-house training, out training, and support. And obviously the sales stuff for it. So we're well adversed in the CAMWorks side of things. Then we've also brought on SolidWorks. CAMS is also a full-blown SolidWorks reseller. So we can sell the system products such as SolidWorks, PDM, and DraftSite. And we are doing training and support for those as well. And of course, going along with that is SolidWorks CAM. SolidWorks CAM is powered by CAMWorks. So we sell and support that as well. And it's very similar for those that are familiar with the CAMWorks because it's powered by it and it's integrated from CAMWorks into it. So it's pretty much kind of the same thing, almost like a light version to say the least. If you have questions on any of those differences, guys can definitely hit us up sometime. We also picked up 3D printers. One of the 3D printer lines we do is Mark Forged. Mark Forged does Onyx type printers. We do those, sell those, and support those. Onyx printing stuff is designed to be as strong and lightweight. They're lighter than aluminum, but just as strong as aluminum. They're printed parts. So it's a neat material. They also have metal printers. So we do metal printers as well. Mark Forged, their Metal X line. Next printer line we do is Big Rep. They're known for big stuff. So they're for printing largest parts. They're one of the largest scaled 3D printers out there in the world. So you can print large parts. So in our printer lineup, we do strong parts and big parts, kind of our concept here. So we cover a big realm of printed parts. Then last but not least, I'd like to throw this out here, throw our company logo here in the product because we have different phases of our company. We've expanded beyond just the software. We do have a machine shop. We've opened a machine shop with some machines behind our office. We have a 3-axis mill and a 5-axis mill and a mill turner subspindle and live tooling and Y-axis and stuff. So we have some machine shops to help our customers if they get in a bind or behind on schedule for programmer leaves to help pick up some parts and run some of your guys' parts if you need to. So we offer some assistance that way. So that's one of the newer features that a lot of people don't know about. So we do have that type of offering. So if it's something we can work out, we can help in that regards as well. So there's some new exciting products there, and I like just to point that out because not everybody's aware of that. So we're going to go updating to the new version of CAMWorks and kind of its best practices. Quick overview of where we're going today, or the kind of the topics of subtopics of that is we're going to talk about gathering the information, backing up custom files and settings, preparing the computer, downloading and installing CAMWorks, updating the custom TechDB, restoring those custom files to putting the puzzle all back together, and then we'll have a Q&A session. So that's kind of our roadmap here for today, and minor, I would say, subtopics of updating CAMWorks. So the first step we're going to go over here is kind of the discovery phase of gathering the information. And one of the first things is, do I need to update? What version of CAMWorks am I running? Those are big common questions. So, of course, if you don't know the answer to those, if the answer is no, you'll need to update. Then anything like this after downstream. But we'd obviously recommend running the latest versions. So, do I need to update? Well, let's find out if you do. We're going to find out what version you're running. So, to find out what version of SolidWorks, or excuse me, of CAMWorks you're running, we're going to go ahead and launch SolidWorks or CAMWorks Solids, because CAMWorks runs inside either one of those, and go to the Help menu, CAMWorks Fly Out and About. So to kind of show you where those are located here, we're going to launch SolidWorks, go to our Help menu, CAMWorks Fly Out there, and About. This will show you the CAMWorks version, the service pack that you're running, and the build date of that service pack. So I'm currently running CAMWorks 2019 Service Pack 5. Okay, so that's what I'm running. Now, the next kind of part of that question is there a newer version available? If so, where do I get it? How do I find out? What's new in that version? Was one of my support issues fixed? And what are the prerequisites of that new version? So these are common questions that come in when it comes time about the new updates, new versions. So we've got some answers for you on that as well. The biggest, best, and easiest place to find that answer is go to CAMWorks.com. So we'll show you how to do that. Obviously, you can reach out to us and email us and ask us if the newer versions are available yet. We'll do our best to feed you back, but unfortunately, HCL it's almost like pulling teeth to getting the information of when the release date's going to be. They very seldom tell us. We pretty much find out the same time you guys do. Every once in a while, they'll give us a couple days heads up that they're going to release and do a pre-release to us. So sometimes we know within a couple days, but not weeks forecast out. But we'll always do our best to try to find out for you. But to always find out if there is one, the easiest one, like I said, is go to CAMWorks.com. So we're going to go ahead and do that. We're going to go to, like I said, CAMWorks.com. We're going to log in. They require a login to see the downloads. If you haven't registered, we encourage you to do so. If you lost your password, there's a lost password option there. So I'm going to go ahead and log in here. Remember my name and log in here. And then we're going to go over to the support menu of their website, the customer area. And then down here they have different download sections, such as they have sections for shop floor, CAMWorks, CAMWorks Solids, Nesting Works, and miscellaneous downloads. We're going to go ahead and go to the CAMWorks downloads because we're looking at CAMWorks today. And they've got the nice new icon on the newest version or newest service pack of each build to pinpoint us. We're going to go ahead and expand that. And you can see there's information about here. So what were the prerequisites? That's kind of listed right here. It'll tell you have to be using SolidWorks 2020 or SolidWorks 2019, CAMWorks Solids 2020, or CAMWorks Solids 2019, which is Windows 10, 8, and 7. And then it's got some information here about the USP date. We'll come back to that guy on the next slide coming up here and discuss that in more detail. CAMWorks 20 is a new install. It does not overwrite 2019. So you can install and run both of either one. It's kind of the note there. Obviously, you see the download option there, and there's information. What's new? It's a common question. There's a nice document here, and it's a 31-page document of detailed descriptions of what's new on CAMWorks 20. I do recommend people take the time to read through those. Some of those new features can save and make your job easier and save time, so it's beneficial to skim through that. There's README files, installation guides, licensing guides, and TechDB settings guides. So there's lots of information there of how to update that stuff. Resolved issues, a big one. This is where you can find out if your support issue has been resolved. When you guys contact us support, if it's a confirmed error in the software, we submit it in and we hit you back with a CSR number. And then that CSR number can be cross-referenced into this list where they'll list all the fixes. So you can simply open this document up, do a Control F, and search for your CSR number there. And then obviously we're going to go ahead and you would download CAMWorks. It's a zip file, and we'd go ahead and kick that download off. So that's how we get some of the answers to those questions, guys. And then continuing on here, do I need new licenses to run this new version? That's a very popular question. So we got some answers for that and how to get it. So the answer to this, we're going to go ahead and launch the license manager and or key manager, depending on what type of license you have. If the listed CAMWorks version hardware licenses or the USP expiration date that's in the software license is older than the license required date for the given build of CAMWorks, you must update your license. One of the common beliefs out there that's not true is there's not a different license per CAMWorks version. CAMWorks licenses work off of date, and you purchase year or two at a time and to renew by date. So you are licensed to run any version that comes out prior to that date that you've purchased. Okay, so that'd be any builder service pack as long as your date is prior to that. So if the newer version comes out after your purchase date, you won't be licensed to run the newer version. So everything's driven by date, not by software version. Okay, so to figure some of that out, we're going to go ahead and show you this here. Again, back to the web page to point this out. Logged into CAMWorks.com, just like where we were. That date right there is what's important. That is telling me in order to run CAMWorks 20 Service Pack 1, my license date must be January 15th, 2020 or later. So we're going to go ahead and check that. I'm going to go ahead and go to the CAMWorks License Manager folder and launch the Key Manager. And this would be for people with hardware licenses that have a dongle. Hit Update and View, and it'll show you the CAMWorks version date here. Mine is 7/31/2018. So that guy will not run the new version of the software on my hardware license because it's older than expired. The required date is newer than that date. Then I'm going to go ahead and launch my software for my software license. Okay, and we're going to jump over to the Authorized Modules tab. And then in that top right corner up there, it'll say Support USP expiration date of 31st of May. That means I am of 2021, so I'm able to run that version because it is after the date listed required. So that's how we check to find out if the license will work. If that license date needs to be updated, there's a whole other process that you can use to update your license. We're not going in that today. We'll probably do that in another webinar, how to update, some tips and tricks on updating licenses, especially in a floating network. They take a little bit more work. But we do have instructions available for those. If you want to, you can shoot us an email on support, and we'll gladly send you those instructions to help update the licenses if you have to do that. And we definitely recommend updating the license before you run the new install to make sure those dates work if you haven't done it. Because it's kind of frustrating if you install the new version and then the first thing I'll tell you right out of the gate, you're not licensed for this version. And that means those dates that I just showed you didn't match. So sometimes it's best to get ahead and get the license all updated and current before you update. And so it's very important to check that, guys. Oops, didn't mean to kick that off. Go to the next slide here. I have custom machine tools, setups, sheets, posts, and different settings. Where are they saved and what will I have to redo them when you update CAMWorks? No, you will not lose any of those. You can get backup copies of all of them. So we're going to show you where some of those settings are at. And some of these are going to be applicable to your environment. Some of them are not. Some of them might be things you just haven't done, so you haven't modified and changed them. It's kind of up to the programmer to how in-depth they go with some of the software. So we're going to show you how to gather all that information on where that information is saved at and where that stuff is at. So kind of one of the big areas to go to is to get this information here and review is the CAMWorks options. You can review the TechDB About section. You can review your user-defined tools and holders, which are in the TechDB. You can review feeds and speeds editor preferences. and then Post Processor tab, and then the Style Setup Sheets path. So we'll go through here and do that here, and I'll show you, point those out and explain a little more detail here. So we're going to go ahead and launch SolidWorks. And to get some of this stuff information, I have to part open, so I'm going to simply open up a part so I can get to the information. Again, this is CAMWorks 2019. I haven't updated yet. I'm going to go to CAMWorks Options. Okay, and the CAMWorks Options, there's different tabs across here. The last one, File Locations, is good information. It'll tell you where the TechDB is that you're using. So if you've customized the TechDB, that's the location of where it's at. If you've saved setup sheets out and generate them, that's where it saves the images to. More importantly, come down in here. The other thing is the information. If you've used virtual machine, where are those machine files located in the template folders and the job folder for them? So those are the paths of where those files are located for those users that use CAMWorks Virtual Machine, which does require an additional license. Not everybody has that. So it may or may not be applicable to you. Then the TechDB, we can go to launch it. You can see here, those are my custom machines I'm using. I'm in the inside. So it's my custom database there. And you can go to About. It'll tell you the database's link that CAMWorks is using. So that's the pathway for it. So that's another location you can check to see where that database is that you're saving stuff to. It's very common. People will ask people, where's your database we need to back up and import from? I don't know. That's how you guys find out. And then you can always check if you've done user-defined tools, where do those guys live? Just simply go to the user-defined section of the tools, and you can hit the toolpath name and look at that location. Okay. I have no custom tools. Those are all default tools that come with it, user-defined tools. Here's some holders here. CAMWorks does ship with different user-defined tool holders. You guys can use those if you wish. Some people do, some people don't. You can see that, click that folder too, and it'll tell you where they are. Turn inserts, if you've done custom ones, which I have not, you can see that folder there. And then, as well, we can go to different turn holders, and you can check that path there by hitting the folder icon, and you can see I have different turn holders, and I have them in that location there. Now, Feeds and Speeds database, it is a separate database than the TechDB. It does work in conjunction with it, though. But you go to Feeds and Speeds Editor and Preferences, you can see that data path, and there's a file in there that we're going to back up where it's saving your changed feeds and speeds. And yes, you can redirect that to the server there if you wish. So it's not done local. A lot of people ask that. So that's where we can gather some information throughout the TechDB. And then actually in the software itself, we can see where some of our post processors are located. Just simply edit the definition of the machine. You can see my different machines here. I can go to the post processor tab, and that'll show me where my posts are that I'm using, and you can see them there because there's my post I like to use. So that's the location where my post is currently at. So I suggest reviewing these different things and notating these different positions as you're exploring to see where you guys saved it. Sometimes people get busy and forget where they've saved things. Style sheet paths for those that created custom setup sheets. It'll show you the path there, and that's the custom setup sheet there that I have one that you can see, and you can see the path, and you can browse through it and see where that folder is. And you can change it to different locations. And that happens to be the default location. So again, I suggest people get in a busy habit and just move it along, and they forget where they save them. And that's how you can go back and see where they save them. Kind of going forward here, I got a summary of where some of those locations are. It's kind of hard to see some of those in the videos there. So you can see the exact path. The TechDB is located in that location here, CAMWorks data, CAMWorks 20,000, whatever the year 19 was. And that example we showed, x64 TechDB. And then virtual machines in the CAMWorks 20x64 machine sim folder and different machines. User-defined tools and holder default location. CAMWorks data, CAMWorks folder here and /tooling. CAMWorks does ship with different tooling by default for the user-defined tools. Some people save their tools in that same folder. I typically don't recommend that, but people do. I like to put them out of there because if you uninstall that folder, you could lose them. Feeds and speeds default location. That's where that is CAMWorks data, matlib, material.mdb. Post-process default location is CAMWorks data 2000, CAMWorks 2000, whatever the year is, post. And the setup sheet folder is same location as in language, English, setup sheets. So I'll give a minute here. If someone wants to screenshot some of those default locations, you guys can go ahead and do that for note purposes. But again, keep in mind, as you're programming, you could have changed from those default locations and put them in different locations. And some people do it inadvertently and they don't know. That's why I suggest reviewing them like we did in that video of how to see where those different locations are of those things. And again, not all these things are going to be applicable to everybody. I like to point out, these are the most common things that most people change: the TechDB, the feeds and speeds, and the post-processors locations. Okay. Now we're going to get into backing up some of these. Should I back up those files? Yes, I always recommend backups. They're insurance. I definitely recommend insuring the backups and getting things backed up. So we're going to go through and show you how to back up some of those locations, and they simply are back up some of those files. And as you can see, I'm doing this right through Windows Explorer. I can copy some of these files for backups. I've created a folder on my C drive just called CAMWorks Backups, and then some subfolders off of it, such as feeds and speeds, TechDB, post, virtual machines, stuff like that, so that I can kind of file and organize the files as I'm backing them up. Okay. And then I also have over here a window open of the default location where a lot of that stuff was. So I'm going to go ahead and browse to that. That's the default location, CAMWorks 2019 x64 TechDB. I'm going to go ahead and copy both of those files. And I'm going to paste them in my folder called TechDB so I have a backup of it. I really recommend making multiple backups of the TechDB in case something goes wrong with an import process or something, so you can revert back to it. The next one I want to back up are machine simulators. And not everybody has these, so I'm going to go ahead and go to the machine sim folder, machines, and then the software will determine the type of machine based off the machine that's selected, if it's a mill turn, or turn. So it automatically dives into the folder for it. But we're going to review each one of those. In the turn section here, all that's in that folder right there are the sample ones. So I don't have any custom ones in there. Those are the default ones that ship with it. Sample ones, again, for the mill turns, those are the ones that ship with it. Nothing common I need to back up. And then here's going to mix of someone that I have custom that I do want to back up along with the ones that ship with it. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my custom ones that I have in here. I'm just going to go ahead and just copy those and put them in my virtual machines folder, but I'm going to put them in a mill folder here just so I remember those are all mills. And I got them out of the mill folder. So I'll go ahead and paste those there to my backup folder. Kind of working through my list there of things to back up. I'll go back to my default location here, the CAMWorks data. If you remember, I had some full files, and they were pointed in my 2018 folder for my holders. Well, if I uninstall 18 to get rid of this folder, that'd be an issue, guys. So I don't like to keep my custom tool holes in those folders. I like to copy them out. I have known in there because there's nothing but the default ones, so I'm not going to back any of those up. I'm not going to do anything with those. And if we notice here, we'll look at here the different folders here. 2019, 2018, you have multiple versions. 2019 will have a lot of those same ones in there because those are the default ones that ship with the software. So that's the same as the 18 was. Just to show you, those are all the default ones. Okay. I do recommend putting them in a separate folder outside of all that in case you uninstall, you don't delete them, and that's what I've done here. I'm going to go ahead and back those up because I put them outside of the individual folders in just a thing called custom folders. So I'm going to go ahead and just back those up as well, so I'm going to have an extra copy of them. Okay. kind of going through here, we also got to do the feeds and speeds. That's what I'm missing yet. So I'm going to go to feeds and speeds. This is the MATLib folder. So CAMWorks data, MATLib. And the files I recommend backing up are the access ones here, not that locked one. That's for the database is locked. We don't need it. And then the settings INI file. So I recommend copying those and backing those files up. Go ahead and put those in the feeds and speeds folder here. So I think what I got left here, working through my list, we got the post processors. That's the default location for the post processors. Okay. They do have some that come with it. In the last two versions have shipped with some mill in turn post. They started that when SolidWorks CAM came about. So there's some posts there. Those are all default ones that ship with it. And then you have some custom ones. I recommend using the custom ones if you guys have purchased ones from us. They're definitely enhanced and improved upon those others. These are tutorial ones that ship with the software here. But these ones right here that I'm grabbing are all custom ones here that I like to use. So we're going to go ahead and back those up. Notice there's multiple files of that same name. We want all those files. So we need different file extensions. You must have the CTL and LNG file for every post processor. The PINF and RTF and KIN files are optional. The KIN file is only required if you're doing 5-axis simultaneous or 4-axis simultaneous. Okay, so we'll go ahead and copy those posts over. Then you get the setup sheets. And those are in those different folders here, are the language, English, setup sheet templates, and then it separates them too by mill, turn, and turn. And you can see the turn setup sheets, those are all ones that come with the software. Those mill turns are the ones that come with the software. I have no custom ones there. And then mill ones, I have ones called CAMs, and then one called CAMWorks, spelled out that I created. Those are custom ones right there with the CAMWorks logo. I want to copy those. Those are custom ones, so I want to back those up. So I'll go ahead and put them in a mill folder for my setup sheets and paste them in there. So far you guys can see I've gone through and backed up a lot of the files here. I'm going to double check and make sure I work my way through the list here. I think I've got everything. So yeah. So I worked my way through the things that we looked up and copy the files that are custom and back those all up. And then another big one here, a lot of people ask this and don't realize it's going to be done. This is kind of one of the hidden secrets here of CAMWorks. So I'd like to take a minute and point this out here is I have user preference settings like the ones in the CAMWorks options. Can I back those settings up too? The answer, yes, you sure can. We're going to use the CAMWorks copy settings. Okay, and a lot of people do ask this. The CAMWorks option stores things like colors of the toolpath, different simulation settings, what you want AFR to find, stuff like that. People have got those all set the way they like them. They don't want to lose them. So you can back those up and import them back in the new version. So this is one that's kind of a hidden option that a lot of people don't know about, but I do use it frequently. It works great. So I'll show you guys how to do that. So with SolidWorks closed, we're going to go ahead and go to our Start menu. Come down here to the CAMWorks 2019 folder and go to CAMWorks Copy Settings. You have to run this as administrator. So you're going to right-click on it, Run as Administrator. That's because it's accessing things in the Windows registry. So it has to be run as administrator. Okay, we're going to hit the Save Settings. It's going to let me browse, and I can save the location that I want to save those to. I'm going to go ahead and go to my CAMWorks Backups folder here and create a folder called CAMWorks Saved Settings. And I'm going to save my settings right here. And I also like to do this too. Some different programmers can use the same settings. So you can share your settings with other programmers too. You can save them off and have them import them. And I'll show you guys how to import them coming up here. Oh, is there anything else I should back up? That was a lot of stuff. Time for some answers. Of course, there's some other things you should back up, but not all of them may be applicable to your environment. But if they are, they're critical to back up. If applicable to your environment was just backing up the following: wire EDM machines, posts, and cutting conditions. So these are wire EDM machines and wire posts I'm talking about, and wire cutting conditions. So wire machines and posts and cutting conditions are all stored different locations from that of the turn, mill, and mill turn stuff. So they're additional files. Save subspindle operations. If you've done that and you have a subspindle module on your license, you may have saved some subspindle operations. You can copy those and move them forward. And tolerance-based machining settings. Not many people mess with the tolerance-based machining that I know of, but it is out there and it's been out there. And what tolerance-based machining is, it works kind of in conjunction with the TechDB and automatic feature recognition, is you can put model-based definitions to the dimensions into your model, so you have to use SOLIDWORKS MBD data and assign tolerances to different features. It'll then look at that MBD data, and you can have it, when it finds like a whole feature with a different tolerance on it, you can make it automatically go to different strategies. So you can change strategies based off of tolerance settings from the MBD data. So the trick is the model just has to have the MBD data, and you can put that in. It's one of the growing trends. Not everybody does that yet, but it's one of the up-and-coming trends. So, and of course, when you customize and set that data, you want to save that. So I'll show you how to save that as well. So again, my backup folder here, the CAMWorks backups where all my stuff is. And then again, the CAMWorks data, CAMWorks 2019, x64 data folder. We're going to go to the EDM folder, post processors, or excuse me, dash post. And in this folder, they have the machine information is located and the different post processors. Now, it does ship with some default post processors. Again, the CW EDM machine setup x64 is for creating machines, but you can save those created machines right with that machine setup.bin. So that is one you want to back up. And if we scroll through here, there's different posts. I don't have any custom ones in there. These are all default ones that ship the software. We're just going to go ahead and grab one to back, copy it, for example, here, and we're going to back up that post processor for it. I'm going to create a folder called Wire EDM Machines and Post, and paste that information in here. This will save me a lot of time instead of recreating a machine in a new version. Wire EDM machines take a little bit of time, and if you miss something, things don't go well. So it's working. Let's just back it up. Grab the cutting conditions file off the EDM folder. There's a cutting conditions file. Those are all default ones that ship the software. I have not created any of those. We're going to just go ahead and copy the one for the post processor I just copied. Create a folder called Wire EDM cut conditions. I'm going to paste it in there. Okay, so we're going to do subspindle operations. Right off the CAMWorks data folder is a folder called subspindle ops. It does ship with a couple of default ones. These ones here are custom ones I've created. I've saved them. I don't want to recreate them, so I'm going to go ahead and back those up. And that way I can put them in the new version going forward, so I don't have to recreate them. Again, this is for people that have the subspindle license to do subspindle operations. So it may or may not be applicable to you. And then the CAMWorks tolerance-based machining is going to be in the CWTBM folder, and it saves them to the different INI setting files here. So we're going to go ahead and copy all these INI files except the run settings INI file to a different location. And again, this is based off the different tolerance ranges if you're working in metric or inches, if it's a turn feature or mill feature, or if you're using geometric tolerancing, there's conditions and settings for it. So that's why there's all different INI files here. So we're going to, for all those different conditions, it has a different INI file. So we'll go ahead and copy all those. Again, this is one that's that is pretty rare. I'm not aware of any customers that are doing this stuff yet, but it is a feature. It's out there. It's definitely a growing thing, and again, it's heavily dependent on the model-based definition tolerances being defined in a model, which not everyone does. So, but they say it's an up-and-coming trend, so we're planning for the future with that one. So we've got those backed up. And of course, that would be all the files. I know that's a little bit dry there, and copying files isn't the most exciting, but they're critical information to keep things going forward. I see where Jesse asked a question here. Are custom strategies part of the backup? Yes, when you say the TechDB, they're in the TechDB. You can save custom strategies names with the different operation types, Jesse. That's all saved within the TechDB. So when we backed up the TechDB, that was copied and saved with it, and then we're going to show you coming up how to import that into the new version. So good question. And then kind of just a quick summary of information of what those default locations are, where those are for guys that do wire EDM machines. Those are the default locations for the guys that have sub-spindle operations saved or tolerance-based machining. Those are the default locations there, and I'll let this set there a second in case anyone wants to screenshot that for notes. And again, you can explore a lot of those settings within CAMWorks and see where those settings are located. Okay. I'd like to point out, again, the saved EDM machine post-processing condition doesn't apply to everybody, only for people who do wire EDM. If you don't use wire EDM in the module, you don't need to mess with back any of those up. Okay. And then the saved sub-spindle tolerances, those aren't very common. Those are pretty rare. But we do have users that do them, so I wanted to put them in here of how to back them up so they don't lose it. The next big thing, computer preparation. We'll go ahead and jump into it. Do you have any recommendations before installing CAMWorks? Yes. This is probably the most important one to get right to eliminate problems downstream. Usually when there's a problem with something not working, that's because of this right here. Okay? Years in, years out, I've seen where most problems in installation are related to two things: permissions and the operating system not being current. Okay? So yes, it's critical to ensure Windows is updated. Manually check the updates, reboot, and check again for updates. Don't rely on the automatic updates. Okay? Always manually check and run the updates and make sure they're in there. Okay? And Microsoft likes to have updates to updates. So that's why you want to reboot and check it again until you get no more updates. You can repeat that until there are no more updates. Okay? And again, most installation errors are a result of the operating system OS not being current. New builds like the latest operating system components. And of course, when those components change, then you want to do a reinstall if it didn't go well. So you can save you a lot of time just by updating Windows right out of the gate. So that's one of the best tips and tricks I can recommend. So we'll show you guys how to do that real quick. Here's a little bit more on the IT side. Go ahead and go to Windows, start Windows settings, updates and settings. I do recommend you to hit Advanced Setting Options 1 and turn on Receive Updates for other Microsoft products. That's big because that also includes the SQL updates, because you notice the TechDB is SQLite. So there are updates in there that affect that are part of Windows or CAMWorks and or your operating system. Then we'll go ahead and hit Check Updates. It will scan and check for updates here, and it will prompt you if you need to install updates and to start installing them. If you haven't done this for a while, it could take you a while. Mine's pretty recent here. I'm pretty big on updates, and I have new updates. It didn't prompt me any, so I'm good. So again, that's a big one on support. Usually when things go haywire, that's one of the big ones right there. It's because their computer wasn't updated. What about my server hosting the CAMWorks license? That's a very good question for the people that have floating network licenses. So this doesn't pertain to everybody, but we're getting a growing trend of floating network licenses. It's getting more and more common. We have a lot of users out there with it. So one thing to keep in mind, if the license date, as we discussed earlier, matches the acquired date, the license itself is good. What about the license manager on the server? That's what's important to note here. We do recommend keeping the CAMWorks license manager version the same that's on the server or hosting the license as it is on the clients looking at it. This ensures more efficient communication between the client and the server when doing licensing. So we recommend it be the same version. Things just seem to work much better. Okay. And one thing to note, CAMWorks 2020 has an all-new license manager. So if you're updating to 2020, it's best just to go ahead and update the license manager on the server as well. Okay, guys, I'm going to get a little video of that to show you this. One thing I note here, right on CAMWorks webpage, they are doing free home licenses and technology update for because of the COVID-19. You can request a home license there, and they'll send you a free 30-day license of CAMWorks. I'm going to go ahead and log in. And we can download just the CAMWorks license manager for the server if we wish. So we're going to go to support, download, or customer area, then downloads. You can go to CAMWorks downloads or miscellaneous downloads. Okay, miscellaneous also has license manager. But if you recall earlier, there was a section here that said license manager. So you can download just the license manager as well. Okay, that's a smaller download than just the CAMWorks itself. CAMWorks itself is rather large. Okay, guys, and again, you can check miscellaneous download section. It's also there. You can see the different license managers versions, and I recommend the latest one. And we can download it. We're going to go ahead and download it. There's a what's new section here, as you can see what's new in the license manager. They moved some things around. And we've got our license manager here, and then when you install license manager, always right click, run as administrator. So we're going to update the license manager only. I'm pretending my computer here is the server, so it's going to update it on the server. I do recommend, if you're on the server, stopping and removing license service prior to updating it. So this is updating here. And then install the new version, then go back in and start it back up. And you can see it's installed. That's the newest version, 2020-0205. So February 5th of 2020 is the current license manager as of today. And then downloading and installing CAMWorks. So we're getting into the actual part of installing CAMWorks. Any tips for installing CAMWorks? Of course. We're going to go ahead and unzip it to a separate folder that is local to the computer that we're installing it to. I don't recommend installing CAMWorks across the network or from a flash drive. There's usually performance issues, and some security softwares don't like those. They will block installations and things from going on because they think it's a risk because it's not native to the computer. So they're asking for problems installing it from other locations. So always install from a location that's local to the computer you're installing it to. And then you always want to run the installer as administrator, even if you are an administrator, because it's going to write things to the registry. Windows will block things writing to the registry even though you're an administrator, if you haven't run as administrator. That's Windows built-in security policy, how that functions. It's also best to temporarily disable any security software to ensure it don't interfere with the installation. So I always do that. So we're going to go through an install here real quick. You can see we go to begin to download it. It's right from CAMWorks website, customer area, and then downloads, and then come on CAMWorks downloads and CAMWorks. Again, license date support as we talked about. You get all the information. You can review what's new, not resolved issues, that type of stuff. And we're going to go ahead and download that guy. And we're going to go ahead and that was pretty quick. I had it downloaded already to save time, so you just have to watch me download it. And we've got it right here in a zip file in my downloads folder. It is local to my PC, so this is this PC. We're going to go ahead and unzip this guy. You can use Windows Explorer to unzip it if you want. A lot of people use that by default. I do have WinZip. I'm used to using it, so mine may look a little bit different than most people's. It's additional software. So I'm going to go ahead and extract it to a folder here and unzip it. So it does take a minute to unzip all the files here. You can see as that's running, I'm going to go ahead and just turn off my antivirus software. That way, I'm kind of planning here for the future, so I'm getting ready to install it. So just turning it off so it doesn't interfere. I'm going to go into that folder and just unzip things, and you can see some instructions right there for review if you guys wish. So there's installation guide, license guide. There's also a folder here for the license manager. You can get just the license manager, copy it right out of there if you want, instead of downloading it separate. It's up to you. And then we're going to always install it here by right-clicking, run as administrator. We'll go ahead and launch the installation. All right. Got the license agreement. You guys can scroll through and read that for your enjoyment. It's real fun and exciting to read. If you're bored, go for it one day. They got a new thing where you can opt in to participate in feedback. I usually don't do that. They like people to do it. I usually don't mess with it, but I turn it off. And then the next thing here, the newer install, is you can install different components or not. There's mandatory ones and optional ones. I always install the optional ones. The CAMWorks View, CAMWorks Virtual Machine, not everyone has to install it. Not very many people have a license for it, but it's there if you do. Feeds and speeds, I would always install. And the build processors and stuff, that's for the additive, CAMWorks additive they've added. I have not messed with that. Not everybody has it. I don't think we've sold any licenses of it in our customer base, like CAMs, so I don't mess with it. So we're going to go ahead and go through the prompts and start the install. Now, it's going to install different components of the install. Back in the old days, you had to install these, all the individually with different programs and separate downloads, so it was easy to miss one. So yeah, this will install CAMWorks itself, and then it'll go install like the feeds and speeds editor, the virtual machine, the license manager, all that type stuff. So it installs everything all through this installer, and it'll prompt you what it's installing and stuff as it goes. I think the CAMWorks install is fairly quick for its file size, so that's why we're going ahead and just doing it here during the webinar here. It's only a few minutes. See how it's kicking over to the license manager. It prompts you that. Of course, this always seems like it takes longer when you're on the line with somebody or people. See, it's installing CAMWorks Virtual Machine. Again, if you have a license for it, it's one that you could exclude and not install if you wish. You used to always install it no matter what, and they give you the option now not to, which is kind of nice for the people who don't have it. Save some hard drive space. CAMWorks View is optional. I always install it. Some of the things it's nice for is it works kind of with the shop floor, which is a newer feature coming out, or has been out. It also works with some of the CAMWorks Shop View setup sheets. But it's one not everybody uses. So Glovius ActiveX is part of the CAMWorks View. And we've completed the installation, so we'll go ahead and hit finish. And then I'm going to go ahead and turn on my antivirus software back on. I don't like to leave that guy off, so I'll wait for that to kick back off. All right. So those are the big tips for installing CAMWorks. And then we're going to go through here, updating custom technology database. This is a big one. To update a new version. This is one of the most common questions or concerns about updating. How do I load my tools, machines, etc., back into the new install of CAMWorks? That's done through the TechDB, because the TechDB stores all that information, tools, machines, strategies, which I think was Jesse had asked earlier, that would all come in through the database stuff. So when we backed it up, then we're going to convert it into the new version to bring in my custom strategies I've saved. So we're going to go ahead and import the technology database, or TechDB, to update it to the newest version. Okay, one thing to note, if sharing on a network, copy the imported database to a network location, then link to it. Never just copy and replace it. There are additional steps for wire EDM machines. Okay, guys? So we're going to go ahead and we're going to do that real quick. I like to go ahead, before I do any of that process, I like to go ahead, after I just install CAMWorks, I like to go ahead and open SolidWorks and CAMWorks just to make sure there's no errors before I've changed anything. And that way I can debug things as I put things in if something were to arise. Looks great, you know, CAMWorks open, no errors, so that's good. So that means the license of the new install, new version. You can see where I go into add-ins, because CAMWorks is an add-in to SolidWorks, or CAMWorks Solids. You can see it launched and added it in, so that's great. CAMWorks 2019 is still there. I can go back to it if I wish. CAMWorks Utilities, most people don't have a license for it. I usually don't use it, so I turn it off just to save system resources. I don't like to run and use it if I don't need to. Okay. And then we're going to open up a part here just so you can see some things here. And check things out to make sure it looks like things are okay. Even though it's not my stuff, it's just the default stuff. But you can see, you know, CAMWorks looks like it's here. Yeah, it's telling me it wants to rebuild. I'm not going to mess with the rebuild. But yeah, I can see tools, you know, stuff. Okay, just my program part. Looks like CAMWorks is working. So no error messages. Icons are all there. Great, you know, nothing's grayed out. Everything's licensed. So that means the installation seems to be good. I can go ahead and launch the database right through here if I wish. Again, these are not my machines. These are the default ones. Because every time I install CAMWorks, it does put the default TechDB back in. So yep, those are not my machines. Just to show you, that's the easiest way to check if you're using the default one or a customized database. Again, go ahead and launch the database. And I'm going to go ahead and close this part out, and then I'm going to close next to SolidWorks. Because when you import the database, SolidWorks has to be closed. So I open the database, and we're going to go ahead and go to Settings. And there's different options here. You can link the database or import the database. We want to import the database. And it is an SQL database. And the current link database is where my copy is basically going to be. So import's going to browse to my copy of my customized TechDB, import it, and it's going to put it in that link database location. So I'm going to go ahead and browse to my customized TechDB. I'm not going to go to my backup one I created of it here, because that's my backup. I don't want to ruin my backup. That's the purpose of the backup. I'm not going to import from it in case the import process goes wrong. But I'm going to rather go right to my CAMWorks 2019 x64 folder. That's my custom TechDB. I'm going to import that one and convert it to the 2021. I hit the import button here. So this is taking my custom one database from 2019 and converting it over to the 2020 database. Now that means once this database has been converted, I won't be able to use this database if I were in CAMWorks 2019. So I like to have a copy of both my CAMWorks 2019 customized database in case I have to revert back for any reason, and then a copy of my 2020 TechDB. And that's because when it's converting this, it's adding the new features and operation parameters into the database that they've developed, such as they've added probing. Old database didn't have probing stuff in it. They're going to add routines for probing and styluses and different holders and stuff for probing to the database. So again, this process does take a couple minutes here to import and convert it over. It likes to hang out at 22% for a while, then usually it jumps like to the 47%, and then it goes. Okay, so this is data migration done successfully, so it's updated to the new version. So that's great. Okay, I did have create backup check, so it created a backup of my other for me, which means it backed up the default 2020 database. Again, it's going to put my new custom database in that link location. You can see these are my new machines and my custom machines, which are kind of generic names, but those are my machines. I can go to About. I can see how it changed the version of the database and the link location. Just show you real quick that it had converted the tooling in my database. It added the probe tools. I mentioned that's some of the new things it added. Probe tools didn't exist before. That's a new thing to 20. Obviously, there's a probing operation, so you have default parameters you can set for the probing. Some other things that are new in the Contour tab, they added tab cutting in 2020. So you'll see if I go to the Contour tab, this would be the Contour tab, there's new options for tab cutting that were never there in the database before. So that's just kind of an example of some of the things of why you import to TechDB from version to version, is to add those new features and options to the database. You can see this is my custom tool crib that I use. So I did not lose any of my tool crib, that type stuff. That's a common question. People worry about losing their tools and tool cribs. Okay. So go ahead and launch that back up, SolidWorks. Because SolidWorks was closed when we imported it. It's loading CAMWorks here. Open up a part file here real quick. You can see those are my custom machines here. CAMWorks options, you can see where it's updated the TechDB location here. Still using that 20 database with my TechDB. So it copied it basically from the 19 folder, put it in the 20 folder, and updated it. Now, one thing I like to do, because you can have different versions, I like to create different folder here to label them. Remember, this database here, my backup folder is 2019 SP5 TechDB. Go ahead and move that there. Then I'm going to go ahead and create a folder called CAMWorks 2020 Source Pack 1 TechDB, because I just know I have a successful conversion of my 2020 database. Good time to back it up. That way I have a copy of it before it was converted and after it was converted. So as a trick there, and that way I can always revert back to something if I have to. I can go back to either one of those versions with those different copies. Okay, so we're moving along here. I see it's a little bit past 1. We're getting close to being done. I'd say there's probably only, I don't know, 10 minutes or so left here. And it's how do I set up the TechDB and other programs within my company? Yep, you can set it up and share that on a network. You share a network with SolidWorks, CAMWorks, or copy the imported and converted database to a shared network location and link to it. So we'll go ahead and do that real quick. I've got my TechDB we just imported, and it was in the 2020 x64 TechDB folder. That's my custom TechDB that was converted. I'm going to go ahead and put it on my network location here. In the TechDB folder, CAMWorks Shared Stuff TechDB, I'm going to put a folder called CAMWorks 2020. Paste those files right to it. And the advantage of putting this on the network is in a company, different programmers can use the same technology database. So multiple people can be linked to this database on their network. So a lot of our larger companies do that. There's no limit to how many people can be limited to it. I've got some of our companies have 30 people linked to it. So all 30 of their programmers are using the same technology database. I do like to make backup on my server, though, of it. And I like to put my backups inside of a zip file often, guys, just so no one can accidentally start using it or flip to it. So I have a backup of it, and I like to put the date and service packets on and the date of it. So that's just kind of a tip for best practices here. Back it up. And then one of the advantages of things being backed up on the server is a lot of people, when their network drive, their servers are backing up those locations and going off-site. Whereas, if you notice, my backups before were local on the C drive. Now I want to point CAMWorks to it. So with StalWorks closed, I'm going to come down here and launch the technology database. I went to the Start menu, CAMWorks 2020 folder. I'm going to launch the TechDB application. This is CAMWorks 20 TechDB. And I'm going to link to that network location. So link is set. It's an SQL database, or SQLite database, sorry. And I want to browse to my network location where I copied that to. And I'm going to go ahead and link to that. This is going to take a minute to link to it here because I am not local. I'm working from home as with all the stuff going on across the VPN. So it's a little bit slower. It can be done. The performance is just not there across the VPN as it is when it's live. So it does take a little bit longer here than I thought. So yeah, you can see that it's updating finally there. And it's linked. So now it's updated to the Q drive, CAMWorks data, and so on. You can see my machines there. Then just to show you real quick, we'll launch SolidWorks and CAMWorks real fast, and we'll show you the location of where the TechDB is, and you'll see that it's now on the network location. This is why you can put the database in all different locations. Why would I recommend checking to see where it's at that you're using and backing up the proper one, because I've seen where multiple people have different copies all over the place and you're not sure which one is the one that's being used. So this is, again, how you find out what's being used. We don't do a rebuild. It's going to hit File Locations, TechDB Location. That shows you the path used there, and that was my network location on the Q drive. And again, I like to double check. A lot of people like to check to see if their machines and stuff are there. So you can launch the TechDB. Yep, I launched it. That's it. You can go to the About section here and see that it's linked to the Q drive, which is my network drive. So that's how that's done in the database. That's a frequently asked question that comes in often. And then restoring the files here, this is my kind of the last step I have, is how do we load the other files we backed up? Because that was a whole lot of them there. So we're going to kind of put all the pieces of the puzzle back together here. So we're going to copy the same location they're in, but to the newer versions folder. So you can see my backup folder here. We've been working with all day here on this, at least this webinar. I have different folders saved. So here's my feeds and speed stuff. I'm going to go ahead and copy those right in here. Okay. You can put those on the network drive if you wish. Okay, and then you can launch your TechDB for the feeds and speeds. People ask us if you can do this. I'll show you real quick. Launch TechDB, go to feed speeds editor, preferences, and you can update that path there. It is imperative to make sure there's a slash at the end of it over that network path, and that way people are pulling the feeds and speeds from the network location. Okay, kind of continuing on here, the other files to back up. Post processors. These are my custom post processors. Go ahead and copy these guys to the 2020 folder. Post. This is the default location. I like to keep them local when I'm working remotely for performance issues. But in the office and the network, I would put them on the network drive. I really don't like them putting them in the CAMWorks 2019 or 2020 folder. I like putting them in a folder outside of, guys, as well. Again, here I'm going to go ahead and copy these just to show you guys. You can put them on the network location as well. And post processors can be located anywhere on your computer. You can simply just browse to that location and select it. So when working in the office, I like them on the network location. No, everyone's using the same post. But when I'm working from home remotely, which doesn't happen often except during the current events, I like to keep a copy local. Just want to make sure they're all the same versions. A revision of the post. Subspindle operations. I'm just going to work my way down the list, start copying these back in. Simply just copy the subspindle operations back in. Setup sheets. There's no import process on setup sheets. We're just go ahead and copy those. We're going to go ahead and copy them back in to the language setup sheet template, mill. Paste those. We're going to do the TechDB because we import that. The TechDB you don't want to copy, you want to import. These are the tolerance-based machining ones here. Copy those to the CAMWorks TBM folder and replace the default ones because I've customized them to my settings. User-defined tools. These are ones I don't like to put in each version, but rather I like them backed up out in the CAMWorks data folder, just custom data for a local copy. I would recommend putting them on the server. That way they're centrally located for everybody. But again, when I'm working remotely, I like to have a copy of them not only on the server, but also remotely, because I don't always have access to the server. And performance issues to the VPN aren't the fastest. You see this takes a little longer to copy. VPN connections aren't the fastest, but they work. And then kind of the virtual machines, as those are copying, we're going to go ahead and keep copying files here. There's no conversion process to those. We're just going to go ahead and park them in the virtual machine folder for 2020 for machines or machine sim, machines mill. Paste those there. Now you can also put those on your server and point them to use the ones on the servers you want. Typically do that in the office. That way everything's backed up and current. Everyone's using the same iteration or version of the machine simulator. So yes, that's as simple as copy to a network location and paste them there. And then you would change the path within the software to where it looks for them. And those are rather large. It's going to take a while to copy on that. A little longer than I want to do here. We're just going to continue to keep copying. We'll let that run. We'll see what it does. As we're copying files, so we're going to go ahead and copy the EDM ones. So copying my post machine folder here. So the machine setup bin right there is, we're going to replace that, and that's going to load my WireEDM machines I've created. So then I'll copy over from the 2019 to it. It's a simple copy and replace. Wire machines are not included in the TechDB. And then the post processor copied with it. And the cutting conditions file. Back up to the CAMWorks EDM post cutting conditions. And paste it here. And replace that. That's my modified cutting conditions file. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and cancel that install, guys. Copy into the network location to save time here. Across the VPN, I think you guys get the idea that you can copy them to the network, and we can browse to them for those that use the machine simulators. And then after I load all the files, go ahead and launch SolidWorks here. CAMWorks. Open up a part file. Again, this is where you can browse the machine simulator to the network location if you wish, for the guys that use a virtual machine. We're using a local one where I just copy those files in, so we should be good with that. That's where that's pointed. For the machines, machine controller, and job folder for them. Setup sheet images, that's just where the images. I do like to point it outside somewhere else, so when it saves setup sheets, it goes to a different location. That's where that's done. The setup sheets, to show you here, that's the current path to where the setup sheet for are. You can change that to the server location if you wish. That happens to be the default path of the 2020 language English folder. So, kind of everything where you can remap things and files are loaded back in. And then one last thing here before we go on is how do I restore my saved settings? If you remember, we backed up our settings with the copy settings window of our CAMWorks options. So we'll go ahead and do that real quick. And that's pretty simple here. We're going to go ahead and launch our copy settings winners as administrator. Just going to write these into the registry. We're going to hit restore. And we're going to restore those. And notice when I did restore these, I'm launching this from the 2020 CAMWorks folder, so that copied those settings that I'd saved into the 2020. And to show you, we can go ahead and open these up. What does that do for me? Let me do a rebuild here. We don't want to mess with that. Okay. You can see that my little machines and stuff are here, my post processors. When I saved it, it was told to remember my post location as being in the 2020 or 19 folder they last were. So we're going to go ahead and point to my new location or my network location for my post processors. Because if you remember, when I saved my settings, my default location for my post processors, that's where it was. So that's where it started looking for them. And I can update it to the network if I wanted to. I can pick my post processors off the network. See, that took a little longer to refresh because it is across the VPN. And then we're going to point it back to the local one. That's what I'm going to do here real quick. Save some time so we don't have any network lag from the VPN. If we open up CAMWorks options, you'll notice these settings right here are part specific to whatever this part is, because this is the settings where this part was saved. Okay. So a quick branch through those. Those aren't my defaults, but rather the condition where the part was saved. And again, the file locations of different options turned on. You can see where things are stored. Go ahead and, again, you can see the mill features where it's set is different. Close this out. I want to close a part file and hit new. And when I save my settings, this will be my settings when I restore it out of CAMWorks, what my settings are. So every part file could be different or could be using the defaults. And these are my saved defaults that I like to start with. So anytime I start programming a new part, it would start with these settings. And then obviously people can change it per part. So that's kind of what the copy settings does for me.